I used to be a plain, ordinary film critic, but somehow weird stuff started happening around me. I found a childhood toy who rules an underground kingdom from out of my basement. I got a weird AI friend living in my TV. I fought a giant straight out of a kid's storybook and met a magical winter elf. But right now, I'm being forced to complete a checklist of TV and movie genres so I can save all of existence with the power of snarky film commentary? Where is everybody? I thought we were doing Star Trek today.
Yeah, Zylo took Ralph with her to a family reunion. Oh, I'm also detecting a gigantic, potentially dangerous thing incoming. You know the thing? I have trouble saying it right.
Mosquito? Crap! On top of this Time War, now we've got Bug Kaiju?
No, the other thing.
Oh, you mean Temporal Anomaly?
That's it, temporal anomalies.
I made it. It worked.
Susie, what are you doing here?
Matt told you I'd be helping on your mission from time to time, but I can only show up when my mom and dad aren't here. Otherwise, time would go all wonky.
Which is kinda how we wound up in this mess to begin with.
Yep. So you need to review one of your items set in the future.
Don't worry, we've got that covered. We're doing Star Trek.
No, you're not. You see, wish magic is very literal. And what Matt actually wished for was...
something like Star Trek.
Something like Star Trek.
So, you're starting out with a Canadian TV show from 1952 called Space Command.
Seems harmless enough. US copyright law and Canadian copyright law are different. I should probably contact the CBC to find out if I can use clips instead of stills.
Charlotte Anderson, CBC Legal Department.
Yes, I'm an unknown American YouTuber. I'm inquiring about the copyright status of a CBC program.
All CBC programs are copyrighted and you must file for permission to use or retransmit.
Nick, do your computer magic.
Already on it.
Let's see. Space Command. November 1954. We have no record of this show. Are you sure it was ours?
Yeah, I have a digital copy right here. It says Canadian Broadcasting Corporation right there.
Well, you would still have to file.
No. As a lawyer for a big media company, you must be aware that Canadian law regarding fair dealing, which is kind of similar to fair use in the U.S., does allow for criticism.
Sorry, you're right. Provided that you mention the source, some of the artists or writers involved, preferably one of the actors.
Can it be? Has the day finally come where I'm legally obligated to do a history segment? I always knew this day would come.
If it weren't for the third law of robotics, I'd be frying my CPU right now.
Okay, after World War II, up until about 1990, the West, led by the United States and helped out by its allies like the UK and our delightful northern neighbors, were in a race to prove our scientific and moral superiority against those superstitious, no-good Russians.
Are you referring to the Cold War?
Yeah. That. Someone thought the best way to do that
was to get into a nuclear bomb building competition to see who could get the highest maximum yield.
Okay, that happened. The Americans and the Soviets looked at Hiroshima and said, let's just agree that we could do that again, but it would be very, very bad. Let's have a proxy war for outer space instead.
I'm pretty sure our proxy war with communism was against Korea.
In Vietnam.
There were a lot of proxy wars. The point is, this increased interest in science led to an increased interest in science fiction. While it had started to grow as a literary genre as early as the 1920s, in the 50s it was huge. Radio shows, movies, television, comic books, it was everywhere. The government liked it because they thought kids who grew up on science fiction might grow up to be actual scientists. Kids liked it because aliens and robots. TV stations loved it because the shows always did well, and they could always find a breakfast cereal willing to sponsor the show. Canada, though, had some issues. Yes, they could import a certain number of US and UK shows, but by law, they had to have a certain amount of their own programming. Before the Twilight Zone, sci-fi was generally marketed to kids, so they had to at least pretend to be educational. This led the CBC to commission its own science fiction show. It thought most of the episodes were written by a guy named Alfred Harris, but he worked with a slew of science, engineering, and philosophy consultants. They set out creating a show that, over its year-and-a-half long run, did stories that dealt with biology, chemistry, engineering, electronics, medicine, physics, and a variety of other topics. Based on that description alone, I can see how one might make the comparison to Star Trek. Our story begins with our space crew living aboard a submarine straight out of World War II surplus. But the narrator insists it's the future because everyone's wearing jackets over their pajamas. The Gillette Razor XXW-1 is reaching orbit of Alpha Centauri. Our space heroes, Steve, Frank, and... Is that Scotty? Holy crap, it is! It's James Doohan! I'm ready for the verdict now.
You still have to watch it.
Fine by me. Anyway, the guys are getting kind of bored. They say there's nothing to see here. The last solar system they visited had 12 planets, and Proxima Centauri only has 2. Not only that, they don't even know if these planets are habitable. Wait, they went to other solar systems before Proxima Centauri? I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Exploratory ventures tend to be done in slow, progressive steps. We orbited the Earth before we went to the moon. NASA is planning to return to the moon before we try for Mars. So if we were to leave the pull of our own sun, given that it is the next closest star, Proxima Centauri would be the logical starting point. Anyway, they call back home. Their boss, Space Elvis, says, maybe you guys should stay out there. You might see something.
Question. The show is noted for at least trying to use real science whenever possible, right?
Yeah, you're right. Radio waves travel at about the speed of light, but they're 4.24 light years away. It should take that long for a signal leaving the ship to reach Earth, and then another 4.24 years for them to hear back.
No one would watch a show where nothing happened for almost half a decade.
Are you kidding? Friends was one of the biggest hits of all time.
Okay then, we need to address another issue.
What?
Can we really give you credit for something set in the future?
It is clearly the future. See? Saturn Girl is using a rotary phone.
Okay, right. Sorry, my mistake.
The captain says, hey, look, I see something. It looks like a ship.
Really? Because it looks like a pair of hubcaps.
Scotty says, It's a ship, all right. It doesn't have rocket boosters, so it must possess technology far in advance of our own. The captain asks, what else can you tell me? Scotty says, not much. Something's gone wrong with the controls. The captain tells the other guy to disarm all weapons. He's gotta go call the boss again. Scotty and the other guy say, we'd rather call them, make first contact. The captain says, these people have technology that is more advanced than ours. Has it occurred to you that if they wanted to contact us, they would've? If this were a slightly better show, we'd have some sort of rule against unwanted cultural impact. Maybe even make it our prime directive. Scotty mutters, and if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon. The secretary picks up. She buzzes the boss. He groans, it's 3 a.m. If this is anything other than encountering an alien... Wait, do we need to bring the diplomats in on this? So they repeat the process on them. The grumpy guy says, can we just get on with it? The captain says, that whole impassioned speech about not coming up first contact, forget it. We're going down to talk to them. Scotty says, without our weapons? The captain says, if we're wrong and they're not more advanced than us, we can take them on barehanded. If we're right, it doesn't really matter. Scotty says, oh yeah, right. Hadn't thought about that. Then we get a really long sequence of them trying to slow down the ship, and nothing happens. Well, apart from a pipe bursting, which somehow makes them trapped in orbit around the sun. They call the boss again. He asks, did you try asking the aliens for help? The captain says, no. The boss says, well, maybe you should. Getting FedEx to ship things off planet is a pain in the ass, but it's not like I have Hubert Farnsworth on my speed dial. Scotty tries every engineering trick he knows, but there's nothing he can do. The captain starts ranting that it must be the aliens' fault somehow. Ensign What's-His-Face says, but sir, we've had this problem before. I can go down to the basement, turn the reactor off, and then turn it back on again. That ought to fix it.
So the highly advanced ship runs on Windows.
The captain says with the reactor shut down, won't the engine turn off? Wouldn't that accelerate their plunge into the sun? Ensign Smart Guy says, maybe? Then we get a scene that gives a certain motion picture I will not name a run for its money in terms of stuff happening. We cut to Space Command. We get a thrilling scene of Space Nancy Drew trying to place a long-distance call, but the operator is saying, we're sorry, the number you have dialed has been disconnected.
That'd be more riveting if she received a phone call to renew the extended Starship warranty.
Back on the ship, the captain says, it's getting hot in here. Mr. Scott, fix it. Scotty turns some knobs and the ship turns around. The captain shouts down in the basement, hey, is everything working yet? Elroy Jetson says, yeah, but I'm gonna pass out now. Don't wake me up until dinner. The engines start working. They call their boss. He says, you survived? Good to know. You can come back now if you want, but maybe you should get on with seeking out new life and new civilizations. Scotty says, I'm sure I'll have plenty of time for that later. The captain says, tough shh. I'm in charge. If I say we're going to explore, then we're going to explore. And that's it. that's the episode.
Aha! I've got you now. You mentioned the writers and the source and the performers. You even provided educational context, but you didn't mention...
Can I please finish my rant wrap?
But you finished. That's the end of the review.
No, that's not how this show works. I summarize what I watched. I make a few wise-ass comments. I issue my verdict. Then I give you my honest opinion about it.
One more thing, in order for it to be considered protected as fair dealing, it cannot be profane.
Please, this is YouTube. I might say ish and off when I record it, but in the editing process, I reverse the audio on the profanity, so ish and cow sounds like tish and cow. By explaining that, do you know how much more difficult I made this on myself?
But...
Moving on.
You haven't heard the last of the CBC. We will have our revenge.
Get in line behind the mysterious future guy, his lackey, the extraterrestrial dictator, the evil military Donatello, and the little girl in the raincoat on the Morton salt canister. Let's see, I can pencil you in for, it says here that the Red-Green show is a possibility for late 2024 or early 2025. Does that work for you?
You will bow down before me, Willie. I swear, no matter if it takes an eternity, you will bow down before me. Both you and, one day, your heirs.
Whatever. Considering what the show had to work with, it is remarkably good. When your budget is shoestring and you're working in a genre known for big ideas and big action set pieces, it's best to work within your limitations. Screenwriter Alfred Harris seems to recognize this because the story is a tad simplistic even compared to American contemporaries like Rocky Jones, Space Ranger, and Tom Corbett, Space Cadet. If anything, the series makes these limitations work to its advantage. A bigger budget means they could afford to hire more actors or have special effects. It's easy to put your hero in an inescapable trap when Nabisco is handing you enough money that you can afford to have blaster weapons, or your heroes escape through the magic of a slow dissolve shot. I mean, teleport away. Yeah, that's what I meant. By not doing that, you're giving your story something special. Dramatic tension. The stakes are higher because your heroes are in real jeopardy. I mean, you have to break the rules of science a little bit or it wouldn't be science fiction. Harris is an old school science fiction writer. His goal was to bend or break the rules of science as little as possible in order for the story to work. This series seems to only grant itself instantaneous communication between Earth and another solar system, artificial gravity, life on other worlds, and possibly faster than light travel. That last one is next to impossible, but without it, almost all sci-fi falls apart, so I'd give it a pass. Alien life? I don't find the idea that improbable. Do I think it is as close to us as Proxima Centauri? No. But I would be shocked if it weren't out there somewhere. Just as shocked as I'd be if we encountered it in my lifetime.
Jess, the first episode I was operational. We were attacked by an alien probe.
And you forgot about me.
He must have skipped his ADHD medication again, because he name dropped you like 3 minutes ago.
I know, right? Right?
Sorry about that. Anyway, I wish I could say it'd be possible to review more episodes of this show, but there's one small problem. While it's thought that somewhere between 51 and 150 episodes were produced, somehow this is the only one that survived. Which is a shame since most documentation about this show is lost and destroyed. Much of what we know comes from James Doohan's memoirs, including the fact that it includes his first on-screen team-up with an actor so wooden he's often mistaken for a Pythia glauca. The myth, the man, the legend, William Shatner.
So, what are we watching next time?
The history books say Space Patrol.
Yeah, I think you're confused. We just watched that.
No, this is Space Command.
Okay, what's the difference? Space Command, Space Patrol, same thing.
We'll find out next time.
Spoiler alert, it's race chicks.
Just wanted us to do a new outro. Do you want to help out, Gizmo? Like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe. Good boy, Gizmo. And remember, to really help this channel grow, visit patreon.com/ParodyErrorFilms and become a patron today.